What's going on, people? Welcome to the debut episode of the Get a Bucket podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron, and someone that I've looked from afar, appreciate his work, and I was just like, one day I gotta do something. Either he come on the pod, we do some, we hit it on the spaces, and then reached out and we said, we thought alike. We want to do a college show. I've been wanting to do a college show. He wanted to do a college show, and great minds think alike. So we just figured it out, and we doing the debut episode of the Get Up Little podcast with my guy Kevin Lucas. What's going on, Kevin?
Man, can't complain. Happy as hell to be here. Can't wait to do it. I've been wanting to do it now. And man, I'm already ready, man. Let's do it.
Yeah. So just tell the people a little bit about yourself. This is our first time, doing a show together. We've talked, in pre-production and all that, getting ready for the show. But just tell the people a little bit about yourself and what do you expect from the Get a Bucket podcast that we're doing.
Man, I'm 23 years old, about to be 20 in Inglewood, California. I played basketball a little bit just in high school. I've always loved it, but games in different ways, whether that be coaching, podcasting like we're doing now. I've always been, like I told you, like I appreciate college basketball more than anything else. I love the NBA. Don't get it twisted. It's something just passionate about college basketball fans that you just don't find anywhere. So you can say I just always had a love for it, and so yeah, since like 2018, that's like graduated high school 2017, but in 2018, I started my own podcast, just talking about all things basketball, and that ever since. And then, I'm just trying to make my way around and keep growing my brand and expanding my brand off the ball. And man, when it comes to Get a Bucket, y'all just gonna get good college basketball. A lot of it out there right now. I think it needs a lot more. It deserves a way more coverage, in my opinion. So,
yeah. So, and people don't know about me. I'm a little older. I'm 33, so we got a little bit of age, but I think that's gonna be perfect.
yep.
As me a perfect, because I'm not one of
Yep.
the old heads. I'm not there yet. I got a little old head in me, but for the most part, I've adapted to the new style of basketball and all that. And as anyone has heard from my, through the Off the Ball podcast or any shows I've been on, I definitely keep up to date and all that. And I think, I've done, like, obviously talked a lot NBA and all that, my shows and all that, but I wanted to diversify my profile, my portfolio and all, and dive in to more college hoops. And obviously, I love college. I'm a Duke fan, and being out East Coast is not college sports in general is not really popping out here, and you out on the left coast is probably more. If you got more teams out there, it's probably more lively within the college atmosphere. But that's just always attracted me to college sports. It's just that atmosphere, the passion and all that, and just that energy is just crazy. I've been to a few college basketball games, and it's unlike it. I went to Nova Creighton, for the Big East championship last year, and it was wild. It's crazy seeing that. But I think in this show we're gonna bring a different energy, bring different vibe. You out west, I'm out east. We're gonna bring that vibe. We're just not just talk college ball. We're gonna talk about high school ball in the California, New York area. Talk about these up and coming guys coming up, in the high school world. So it's gonna be a general college, high school. We're gonna talk about all that. Obviously, not just talk about the top teams in the country, because you hear a lot about. We're gonna talk a lot about the mid majors and the lower conferences that need more love. So that's why I'm really excited about doing this and chopping up with you, and we're gonna have fun with this. So I'm really excited, bro.
Yes, sir. And I'll just say this too, just a disclaimer, because I should have said Michigan State fan. For those of y'all that don't know, it's just been like that. I became a fan since first grade. I did a book report on Magic Johnson. I seen the logo and I just fell in love in Michigan State and everything. So y'all might hear a little bit of a Michigan State bias in here sometimes, but I'm a bigger college basketball fan than I am a Michigan State fan. As much as I love my Spartans, I appreciate the game that much bias, if it ever is.
And that's gonna be, you're gonna hear my little Duke, my Duke fandom in me. But like I said, I'm like you, and it's just like the NBA too. I love the sport as much as I love my team. The sport is great, and just you said Magic Johnson. You did a book report. Duke You could probably say it was front running when I first became a fan. Like I said, we don't got. I don't St. John. Like I live in New York, so we got St. John, but they're not really popping. Rutgers, no, Rutgers is Rutgers. They've
They on
been
the
better now. Rutgers,
rise. Yep.
they're on the rise. Ron Harper had them going last year. And they're definitely on the come up. But I didn't have no one to really root for.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, watching college basketball. I'm just like, oh, Jay Williams. Oh, I like him. He's a hooper. And ever Jay Will's the reason why I'm a Duke fan. I just slapping on the floor and all that. And maybe it was, and I think the year they won the Natty that year, I started being a fan. So I just kept, I just say, all right, this is my team. Gonna stick with them and all that. I like St. John's and all that. Rutgers, I root for I like the area, the local area teams. But Duke's my team. But I'm not gonna go too home around them. I'm gonna criticize them. We're gonna do that. I'm gonna get on them if they're not doing right. And we're gonna get into them a little bit later because it's obviously some major changes. But let's get right into it, bro. Let's talk about the AP top 25, and I'm gonna list off the top 25 teams coming into the country, and it's led by North Carolina is the number one team in the country coming in, and they
Yep.
yeah. So we got Carolina. Let me get the exact rankings right here. I'm gonna pull them up quick. We got Carolina, followed by Gonzaga, Houston, Kentucky, Kansas, Baylor, Duke, UCLA, Creighton, Arkansas, Tennessee, Texas, Indiana, TCU, Auburn, Nova, Arizona, Virginia, San Diego State, Bama, Oregon, Michigan, Illinois, Dayton, and then it's follows by Texas Tech. So that's the AP top 25. Is there any teams there that surprise you about how low, how high they are in the rankings, Kev?
Yeah, man. Two teams specifically. I think San Diego State is probably winning all this year. I think Brian Dutcher's done a great job of laying the foundation down there. The best defensive teams in the country, in my opinion. They bring back my guy Matt Bradley. Shout out to San Bernardino. Big for them last year. He's going to be big for them this year. They bring back Lamont Butler. They bring back Adam Seiko, protectors in the country. So to me, this is his most talented squad that he's had. And they've had some pretty good squads. And so the Mountain West is going to be tough. I think they should be looked at as being in UNLV. As for now, maybe Colorado State or Boise State, but San Diego, and they pushed Creighton all the way down to the wire last year before they lost in the tournament. And when you bring back so much experience, and I always say, y'all gonna hear me say this a lot too, experience wins out, man. Like, this teams in the country, they have 100%. Experience, and you need older dudes. It's not just about freshmen anymore. It used to be. You got to get these older dudes, man. You got to get older nowadays. And San Diego State, they got a team that I'm super high on, and I think this dude we're going to talk about him a lot this year. Holmes the second. He's at Dayton, the Dayton squad, the Dayton Flyers. Anthony Grant, they had a okay year last year. They were just kind of young, but again, another team they bring back so much. We'll talk about a lot this year too. But Deron Holmes, Malachi Smith is one of the best points. He's going to be a problem. You look at the rest of the team, like they just have a solid players, man. RJ Blakeney, you have Kobe Bryant came off and won 8-10 6 man of the year. Like those two teams, they don't play in, of course, the Power 5 conferences that people love to talk about, but conferences that consistently put teams into the NCAA tournament, and both those teams are going to be dangerous come March.
Yeah, and like you mentioned before, it's all by experience. It is, and we get infatuated with, oh, this team got 3 top 10, like Arkansas, right? They got their big 3. Duke got their guys. Even Michigan got some guys. And we forget that at the end of the day, experience wins. So that Kansas team got experience. That's why they won the national championship. That's why North Carolina, went on to the national championship and beat that Duke team. That Duke team is probably more talented than that North Carolina team, right? They had the number 1 pick. They got the number 1 pick, in the draft. Like, experience usually over. Like those Virginia teams, that won national championship. Like, the experience-laden teams are going to come up top, and that's why I try to not get too hyped up about a lot. And Duke, for example, they got how many freshmen does Duke have? I mean, they got
Too
one,
many.
2, 3, 4, 5. They got five stars, and that's not including, some 4 stars they got that people don't hear about that are good, and that's not the guys that coming in like they got so much, but with them it's like you got to figure out, okay, new coach finally, and all that. So the experienced teams are going to be the teams that we need to be looking at, because those are usually the teams that are going to come out and usually win the national championship. It's very, very rare we see freshman led team. I mean, that Duke team from 15, with Jaleel Okafor and all that, and Jones, that was a predominantly dominant, freshman team, but experience is going to come up top usually, especially in college basketball.
Yep.
And it's just a turnaround. Like we're seeing a lot of that's the one and done and stuff. So it's sometimes it's like, wait, they got how many new guys? Like this is like a lot of teams have so much new guys. Like just watching the SEC media day yesterday, and they're like, well, this team has 10 new guys. LSU's got the whole roster. I think they have one returning guy, an all freshman,
Yep.
and some transfer portal guys. And you just say, Ole Miss and all these teams have all new guys. Arkansas, same thing. Like they're seeing so much turnover, and that's what's crazy. But like we just gotta see, okay, what teams have the most experience? That's probably who's gonna come out.
This too is that to me the two most important things to win is experience, but we just point guard play. I think you look at all of the past national champions, especially the games, like they all had good point guard plays. You just hit on Virginia. They had Ty Jerome, Duke team in 2015. They had Tyus Jones, Grayson Allen. Like it's not just the point guard play, but it's really you look at like my top teams this year. They all have, in my opinion, elite backcourts. I think that's the most fun.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a good point guard, more than likely, unless you just have the most dominant big like Anthony Davis, then you'll be in games, but that's not always the case. You know what I'm saying? You need that guard supreme. You just can't replicate anything like it. If you don't have good guard play, I can't to a certain extent, but it can only take you so far.
Yeah, it really can take you so far, and that's why I like a team like TCU with Mike Miles. I think Mike Miles is someone that I think is in the Player of the Year. Player of the Year. He's someone who had as a drafted prospect. I thought he was good enough to be drafted last year. Obviously, he comes back.
Yep.
And when you have an experienced player like him, that gives you like you mentioned, if you have the experience on the roster and you have the experience at the point guard position, you could do. And that's why I think maybe like a Duke could do some things with Roach coming back because he has experience. But like that's going to be what we're going to see. Mark Sasser from Houston, like, and that's another guy, Player of the Year. Like that's why people are high on Houston because him back healthy is going to be huge for Houston. That's why they're top. And I saw someone had them ranked number 1, and someone's like, oh, they can't be the number 1 team in the country. I was like, if we're going to eliminate injuries, which obviously it's hard to predict injuries, but Sasser's that dude, and if he's that dude and he's healthy and he's playing playing every game, if you have the number 1, that doesn't surprise. I mean, this is a team that has experience, great coach. They've been to the Elite 8. If you like, they've had a lot of success over these years for a non-traditional power school. They've done a good job over there. Ralph Sampson's done a good job. So like you said, man, experienced point guard play is going to get the job done. But I like TCU too. TCU is a team that, like I said, Mike Miles and all that. They got some experience there. I like them too. Is there any other team that probably too high for you?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. As much as I like what North, and yes, they had a great run last year. I don't want to discount anything that they did. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying full season and not just the tournament.
Yeah.
Like last year, I cut them some slack. We never hold expectations for first-year head coaches because you got to lay down your foundation. You got to lay down your players. What you're trying to coach to them. You got to get your own players into the program. And Hubert Davis, some good talent. and then they turned their season around, kind of like mid ACC play, but
Yeah,
consistent
because they
all year.
struggled early, man. People forget they were struggling. They looked like a bubble
Exactly,
team.
they lost Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is probably the worst program. No offense to my Pitt people out there, but Pittsburgh is probably the
Yeah,
CC right now,
struggled. Yeah,
and it's nothing wrong with that. Because sometimes you're gonna lose games. So you don't get
of
up, you
course.
don't feel right. It is what it is. I don't put too much stock into that. But was dependent on two things, and they both had to do with Caleb Love. Taking
Yeah.
Caleb Love, putting him as a shooting guard because he's a microwave scorer, and when they were at their best was hooping. And I like Caleb Love coming out of high school, out of St. Louis, big time player, went to Christian Brothers. Like he's a microwave scorer, and it's like he's either really on or he's really off. And so I do think, I'm just saying that instead of it being the tournament and getting to them 6 games, getting to them to see what they did in them 6 games for a full duration of the season. Obviously, you're not going to play like that, but I just want to see consistency. And so it's year 2 with their same coach and Hubert Davis. They bring back Pretty Gone. Of course, he graduated. Curran Walton is now at Texas Tech. So they bring struggle. I'm not going to sit here and say that they shouldn't be as high. Again, I just want to see them do it for a little.
No, yeah. I definitely agree because like they did struggle last year. I think we're putting a lot of stock into the experience, right? Leaky
Yep.
Black, Caleb Love, Baycott, and they brought in Larry Nance's brother from Northwestern.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're adding experience. They didn't have a crazy recruiting. They didn't bring in like any. They had a small recruiting class from what I recall. So they didn't bring in a lot of things that talent, big time talent that may be able to help them this year. Where other teams in the ACC have some big time, freshmen and all that. But I could see that. I could see that. I think like I said, I think they're number one because they went to the national championship. But like I said, they struggled last year. They struggled there for a lot of big portion of the season. So like, which North Carolina team are you gonna get? Because
Exactly.
they went through a Hubert Davis taking over for a legend. That's a big thing, and we're gonna see that from Duke and Villanova, this year. Big shoes to fill in, and that's tough. But you got to give Hubert Davis, credit for being able to right the ship and get them back to playing where they need to be playing, and get all the way to the national championship. Like they spoiled Coach K's, last game at Duke. They put it to Duke, and they beat Duke a few times, in the Final Four and all that. So, which North Carolina team? I wouldn't everyone expect Baycott's an All-American, Caleb Love, people, player of the year, like a lot of expectations for. So how can they handle it? Because they're everyone's looking at them, everyone's looking at them as the top dog. So that's going to be very, very interesting to see how they put it all together. But they got a good squad. They got a good squad. So speaking of that, we just talked about a little bit now Carolina. Final 4 teams, and that's the next thing we're going to talk about. The Final 4 teams. Duke played obviously North Carolina. That hurt me. That's still sick that we lost to them. And how we lost to them. Duke, Kansas, North Carolina, Villanova. Obviously, Kansas won the national championship, beating North Carolina. North Carolina had a lead too, man. They had a big lead. I think that's the biggest blown lead in national championship game history. They had it. So 15-point lead, man. They had it. I'm not too mad about that. So, not too mad about that. Hey, you got to finish it. But like I said, they you got to give them credit because early season struggles and all that. But Kansas, national champions, tremendous season. A lot of turnover. What's your just initial thoughts about the defending national championships and how you feel about them this season?
Yeah, man, it's been a lot of off the court stuff going on with them.
Yeah.
I do like some of the pieces. I'm not gonna lie, I've heard a lot of good things. Like if you listen to anybody from the state of North Carolina, they're very high on Bobby. Didn't play that much last year for reasons, I guess. They had Harris, Remy Martin. He's gonna play this year for sure. I'm high on KJ Adams. I watched him a lot coming out of high school. He's not necessarily a guy that you can give the ball to and just say go get a bucket, but I do think he can lead a team. Harris is back. He was probably arguably their best defensive player last year. Losing O'Shine, losing Chris, Zachary Clements comes in. You got a couple other dudes coming in, but to me, like when you win a national championship, like of course the stakes are going to be even higher next year. Again.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the expectations should come down a little bit because of investigated right now. They've been investigated for a few years now, so they're going to deal with that. But the American out of Sunrise Christian, so I think they'll be fine. I think I put 2, maybe 3 Big 12 teams over them, but it's Kansas. Bill's a big fan. I do appreciate him, but he's a good coach, great coach nonetheless. So I'm not, and I think they should be fine, man. Like they have pieces. I don't really see a GOAT, but for now, I think they'll be able to kind of piece it together in a tough Big 12 this year.
Tough is an understatement, bro. That's an understatement. Big 12's a juggernaut. It's a juggernaut out there, and it's tough. It's tough, and they lost, Abaji. McCormick's gone.
Yep.
Christian Braun's gone. Remy Martin's gone. So they lost some guys, but a name that I think that a lot of people like, not just college basketball, but in the draft world, and he got some buzz last year. Put his name in there, but Jalen Wilson, I think, is going to be big for them. If they can get production out of Jalen Wilson, because he's super talented, and we saw some flashes last year of him. And he was somewhere around like 12 a game and all that. He's gonna have to step up this year, and give them some minutes, and not just minutes, but some good minutes. And he's definitely someone that could be in that 12, player of the year discussion, because he's got the talent with 6'8", 6'9", so I think a big year from him is going to be expected in order for Kansas to get back. But they got a lot of things going on, sanctions possibly from stuff. So there's no ruling on. I haven't heard anything. I don't know if you've heard anything, updated with that. So that can impact their season, depending on how big, how tough the NCAA comes down to them on violations. I don't know. I don't think if they'll get banned from the postseason and all that, but you never know with the NCAA. Yeah. They're unexpected. So, Jalen Wilson, someone I watched some film on him, a lot of film for the draft and all that, but I think he's someone that I think I expect him to have a pretty good season for them, and they're gonna need it. They're definitely gonna need it. I think recruiting wise, they were like middle of the pack, like top 15 recruiting wise. So they got a solid recruiting class, and a transfer from they got Kevin McCullough coming from Texas Tech. So we'll see how he'll incorporate. He was a guard. So we'll see how he incorporates. Solid freshman. So it's gonna be interesting to see how Kansas bounces back. But then a tough conference, bro. That's the toughest conference. And the SEC is getting better, but I think the Big 12. Big 12 was tough last year. Like you could be the 7th team in the Big 12, and it's kind of like the SEC in football. Like you could be the 7th best team in the SEC, but you're really like the top 20 team overall. But Big 12 is gonna be tough. We got Texas Tech, TCU we mentioned before. There's a lot of tough teams out there. So it's definitely gonna be interesting. So let's head over to Villanova, and they replacing Jay Wright, retired kind of unexpectedly, and that's going to be tough. But they brought in a nice recruiting class and all that. So just give me your thoughts about the loss of Jay Wright and how you think that impacts Nova going into this season.
Man, I was under the impression a lot of people probably in the past 5-6 years, I think Jay Wright was arguably easily the best, and the way that he was doing it, the way his teams played, like they played tough as hell. They was off, and that was a big loss to the game. And I was honestly surprised and shocked when I seen the news. You could kind of, I won't say you could see it coming, but you understand that dudes are getting older. Of course, stuff. It's a daily grind being a college basketball coach. Like
Oh
the
yeah.
NBA, you can get a vacation. College basketball, as soon as the season over, you got to go recruit. You got
That's
to
24/7 job. It's a
you got
24/7 job.
you got to. It's crazy now because you got to recruit your own, losing to the transfer portal nowadays.
And NIL and all that. So
Right?
like, hey, there's other teams that got the bag. It's like, oh man, this school's offering this dude $300K. We only got such and such amount, and they've never really been a school that's gets a bunch of 5 stars and all. They're one of those teams that we talk about that always depends on third and fourth seniors and all that, juniors, seniors, and all that. So sometimes you just gotta. I think that could wear that's worn on. We've heard coaches say, "Hey, that's it's, hey man, we saw Coach K had to adapt to that. Coach K was junior, seniors, and hey now freshmen and all that. And there's a lot of coaches that just, I mean, every year you got to re-recruit. It's crazy.
Exactly. So I mean, honestly, like I don't think Nova is getting. I think Kyle Neptune's going to be fine. He was an assistant coach at Nova before. Like he understands Nova playing or coaching next to Jay Wright, and so they bring back Eric Dixon. They bring back a whole bunch of talent. I think Justin Moore is going to be fine once he gets back from his injury.
That was huge. His injury was huge. They didn't get hurt. I think he got hurt in the Big East tournament, right? If I recall.
First Houston. Yep.
Oh yeah, and at the big in the NCAA tournament, he got hurt, and that was huge. You just saw the devastation on his face, and that was a tough blow.
Yeah, man, that was. I mean, he's intricate, been their best player. He just does everything. He defends. He knocks down shots. He plays out. On top of that, though, you mentioned that recruiting class. Like, the thing with me is like I never, but the thing I appreciate about them is that they don't necessarily always recruit 5 stars. Like in the dudes that fit their culture, that fit their program, and that know how to uphold the standards at Nova, and that are going to be scary good. So first you got Cam Whitmore. Cam hurt his thumb, if I'm not mistaken. He's going to miss a little bit of time, but he'll be back. McDonald's All-American. He played remember the actual event it was, but he was dominant earlier this year. Played in the Hoop Summit. He is 6'7", nothing but pure energy and hustle. Does everything that you want. NBA, he's gonna fit in perfectly. He already at Nova, he's in the perfect spot. Out of the DMV, I think he might be from Baltimore. Let me
Yeah, he's from Baltimore. Yeah,
that's a big difference. Yeah, that's a big difference. So that dude, and then the other one, the dude who's gonna run the show for them this year. That I'm Mark Armstrong, out of Jersey, South Orange. Went to the St. Peter's Prep. Like this dude, man, I don't know what, lives above the rim, sees plays before they develop as a true point on the floor. Big time defensive player, knows how to use his athleticism. Always talking on the court. It's like, I'm telling y'all, man, Nova. I have Creighton winning the Big East this year, but you look at the Big East. The Big East is a dog fight, and I think no drop off. Even with losing a great coach, an all-time great coach, I expect them to stay right in the thing, only getting better and better.
Yeah, I don't. Jay Wright left them in a good spot. They got, obviously Cam Whitmore is someone that might be one of their best recruits, ever. Like he's just that good, and you hear a lot of people in the draft circle saying that they wouldn't be surprised if he's that third dude after after Scoot and Wemby. Like he's the third guy selected in the draft. Like he's that good, and him alone, people like Nova and all that. But Kyle Neptune is someone, he was at Fordham last year, right? And like I said, he was on the staff, so he has experience. It's not like, and he was just there. He just spent 1 year at Fordham, so it wasn't like he's been gone from the program a long time. Maybe if that was the case, maybe some people would have some concerns, but he's been in the program. I think he's there, 6-7 years as an assistant and all that, if I recall, off the top of my head. Then got the Fordham gig and did okay with Fordham. Fordham was a tough job. I think he went 500 or something like that. But they're going to be all right. I think people. Creighton's the flavor of the is the flavor of the week there in the Big East. A lot of people like Creighton and all that. And Creighton was, I think they missed the tournament last year, right? And people thought they should have made it. They lost the Big East championship to Nova, and people still thought that was good enough to get there, and they didn't. But they I wouldn't be surprised if Nova's, you know, they're still Nova, and we're still talking about them, being in the Sweet 16 and all that. But Cam Whitmer, man, he's talk about impact freshman. He's definitely one of those top 3 impact freshmen that can make a true impact. And Big East Player of the Year is not out of the realm for him. Like that's definitely obtainable for him. Freshman of the year also, and like he could come away with both awards and do some work. I'm excited to watch him hoop. He's gonna be fun for Nova, but they're gonna be all right. They're gonna be all right. They didn't, like I said, obviously felt like maybe Jay Wright, had this in mind. Even though maybe we were shocked that he left, but the coaches aren't going to leave their schools in. Some coaches may leave their schools in disarray, but that's not going to happen at Nova. They'll be all right. They'll be all right, and maybe they'll start getting more, those big time recruits and all that. But they'll be fine. They're fine, and definitely going to be in the running for that Big East title. All right. So we covered those 2 teams. And we covered for the most part North Carolina. So let's get to the Dukies. Let's go to the Duke Blue Devils. Obviously, we can't start without mentioning that the legendary Coach K is no longer the head coach. And I had a feeling maybe for like 2-3 years, like it's gonna happen. He's gonna retire. Then it didn't happen. Then you get rumblings, and it's like it didn't happen. I was like, it's gonna happen. I don't know, but it's gonna happen in the next 2-3 years. Wound up happening last year. He announced his retirement. They want to go into the Final Four, lost to North Carolina. A lot of losses, obviously. Paolo Banchero, their stud. AJ Griffin's gone. Trevor Keels is gone. So they're missing some guys, but they got a lock-loaded freshman class, number 1 recruiting class in the country, bringing a bunch of dudes. Just give me, and now John Shire is the head, and he's been the lead assistant for a while. And he takes over. Now, we talk about Jay Wright and Kyle Neptune, filling in big shoes.
Yep.
And Hubert Davis filling in big shoes last year. This is probably the biggest shoes to fill, Kev. There's no bigger shoes in college basketball to fill than Coach K. That's how we know him by Coach K. Every other coach we talk about, we talk about give him full name, full government. Yep. Coach K, and everyone who we're talking about too. And you go Coach K. Oh yeah, yep. You can't spell his name, but you know Coach K. What is your expectations for Duke? Do you see a big vibe difference? Do you think they still keep that same energy going? Like obviously he's gonna be John Shire's a younger coach and all that, but do you think the mystique of Duke is still going to remain intact because Coach K is no longer there, or do you see that it could fade?
I think y'all are going to be fine because the recruiting is on point right now. So like we still have to see the on-court results. I know they're 2 different things. Trust me, if anybody knows, I know it's ass off right now. For now, like y'all are already focused on players that are in their sophomore years right now. Y'all don't even care about the SEMA. But when it comes to this roster, I like the roster. Of course, you mentioned earlier Jeremy Roach is back, which is huge.
That's
huge.
If
anybody returned from last year's team, that's probably the best dude that y'all could have got back, especially the way he was playing towards the back end of the season and in the tournament.
He put Trevor Keels on the back end. Remember Trevor Keels, that first game against Tide? Against Kentucky, people are like, maybe Trevor Keels is like a top 10 pick and all that. And then Jeremy Roach was kind of in the back because remember they brought him the year before. He was a highly recruited player. Comes in and he kind of just toward the end of the year he showed that confidence and he gained back that spot. And he was the most underrated player in that run to the Final Four.
Yeah, and you actually with this team, like, I like Dariq Whitehead. I think he's going to be good. I know he's hurt for a little bit, but I think at the beginning of the season. Derek Lively, I'll admit, I'm not as high on him as a prospect, but I think in the college game, he should be a better rim protector than most dudes, especially Tyrese Proctor is the guy that
He reclassified, yeah.
I think really people probably haven't seen too much of him because he's from Australia. Played at the NBA Global Academy, which is like Benedict Mathurin. But he's gonna be good. I like his game. I think he's big time on big time stages before. He should fit in right at Duke. You know, they bring in Jacob Grandison just to, he's a 3-and-D dude. Being a Big Ten fan, I've seen him. He's cool. I think again he brings some experience. That should be fine. And then Mark Mitchell. I think that's this guy right here is the key. Do it all forward, can pass, shoot, dribble, defend. Knows his role. Never takes plays. He makes mistakes. I think he's the key. That power forward spot is always kind of vital. I think he's the one that could differentiate y'all from being, and he has it. So I'm curious to see how he plays. Kyle Filipowski, a lot of people are high on out of New York, played for the NY Rens, missed a little bit of the Peach Jam because of super valuable, big time shooter, offensively skilled. He's kind of got slow feet. Kind of reminds Matthew Hurt, who was there a couple years ago for you guys.
You get a lot of comps to Matthew Hurt.
I think a bit more of a polished scorer, in my opinion. But to be honest, like I like the experience. Always kind of makes me a little bit cautious. But when you look at the ACC has kind of been down for, and I think you'll have Florida State, of course. We already talked about UNC. You'll have Virginia, other teams here and there. But Duke, really, realistically, y'all should finish as like a top 2 team in the ACC. Surprise if y'all get to like the Elite 8, Sweet 16.
Yeah, and it's gonna come down to those freshmen. I mean, they might be starting 3 freshmen, 4, maybe 4 freshmen. With Lively, but they lost a lot. They lost a lot. Wendell Moore, Mark Williams, that big time. A lot of first round picks they lost. So it's gonna be tough to replace all that. Now they've shown they have in the past, but not a lot of vets out there. They don't have a lot of vets. Like I said, they've run some transfers and all that, and we'll see how they'll incorporate that. But it's going to be interesting to see. I'm nervous, but I'm excited because it's a new era. But it's like, all right, like I said, the ACC is down, for overall, but I think the ACC is definitely winnable if all the freshmen. But you got to remember, they're still freshmen. They're still young kids. They're adapting. It's a new environment. It's Duke. It's different. Expectations are. I know Coach K is no longer there, but expectations to get, back to a national championship and all that, and how they'll match up against North Carolina is going to be interesting. There's a veteran team like that, because that's probably who they're going to be going at it. Maybe some NC State. NC State should be someone that a team that should be better. But that's good. Florida State also. Florida State always got those long players and all that.
Yeah.
So they'll be interesting to see. But Virginia also, can't forget about Virginia. But this Duke team is going to be interesting. I just want to see how these young guys. Whitehead, is he going to be healthy? You got to see how his health is. With Tariq, Derek Lively, someone I think he's for the most part been the number 1 player, but there's a lot of NBA scouts that are like are questioning his fit at the next level because you see a lot of mocks right now have him top. So seeing how he comes, but they're gonna play a lot of freshmen, that's for sure. But to see if Jeremy Roach can help, he's the captain of the team, and I want to see how Shire is as the lead guy. See as the lead guy how he gets these guys going. He has the respect. He's a hell of a recruiter. But that's because you have Coach K. You got Coach K, so it's probably easier to recruit. But now you're the guy. Coach K is no longer there. He'll be an advisor and all that. But that's going to be interesting to see. I think a lot of people are looking for. I'm very, very interested to see how this program is going to look. And I just wonder, what if they have a down year? What if would the mystique go away?
And that's
like Kev, you tell me, like if they're. Let's say they're like 2 years ago when the COVID year that happens, and they're an 8-9 seed. They get or they didn't even go to tournament that year. They just said, "Nah, we good." That year was a disaster with Jan Johnson and all that. But what if they're like a they're 20-13, and they're 9-8 in the conference or all that. Like, does that mystique go away? Because people are okay. Coach K is no longer there. It's John Shire. It's not Coach K. It's John Shire.
And,
You
and
tell
that's the
me.
thing
You
too,
tell me.
is that kind of worries me a little bit. It's not too much, but is that on top of you're trying to play, you can't replace Coach K, but you're trying to be
Yeah.
the next guy after Coach K. The other thing on top of that, in the street on Tobacco Road, their first year head coach Hubert Davis, as we just mentioned, went to a Final Four. Most Duke fans are going to expect getting to a Final Four in year one, and that's a tough out of any coach. And I think Shire will be fine. The thing too is that a lot of people, if I'm being honest, like from people I've talked to, they had a feeling Shire was going to get the job, but they didn't think that he was the right dude from Coach K's job. And
yeah.
so that's another thing on top of it too. I think you guys are going to be fine. They got to kind of temper expectations. You can't put the same expectation you had with Coach K on realistic here. You got to give time for Shire to really find himself as a coach, because what Coach K did. That's the biggest mistake any coach can have, is trying to be like another great coach. Like, coaches are always naturally themselves, whether people like it or not. They're themselves, and so he has to takes for him to be himself and not fall into, oh, I'm trying to be the coach I found Shire, and everything should work out for him.
Yeah, and that's expectations always high at Duke, and that's going to be the thing. And let's see how John Shire handles that pressure. He learned from the best, and like you said, there's some people that you heard that were like, hey, I don't know if Shire's that guy. They thought maybe one of some of their other coaches that have been there should maybe have gotten the job and all that. But it always felt like he was the one. I just always had the feeling that he was always going to be the one, that they were going to go like a Jeff Capel or something like that, and some Wojciechowski, all that, or who's the other one from Stanford?
Tommy
Can't
Amaker.
forget his. Yeah, Tommy Amaker. Someone like that. I always felt like he's gonna groom his guy, not get someone who's already, because those other coaches hadn't had a lot of success, so that could be a stain. So I think he didn't want that. Not that they're not good coaches and all that, but they, Jeff Capel, he's on the hot seat and all that. Already got fired from a job. Wojciechowski is out at Marquette and all that. Tommy Amaker. And trying to think of anyone else in this coaching tree and all that. But I think they just wanted to get someone new that doesn't have no ties to any other school and all that. Get someone he's groomed from the ground up. That he knows that he's instilling his philosophy, not outside influences and all that. And always felt like him, or that he was going to get the gig. So we'll see how it does. It's going to be interesting to see how they do it at Duke. It's going to be very interesting. All right. So just want to go through some of the preseason All-Americans. So preseason All-Americans, I believe, were Drew Timme, Oscar Shabi, Blake Cott, Mark Sasser, and Jamie Jacques from UCLA and all that. Yeah. So any, I have no problem with that list. I think those are probably the top, preseason All-Americans and all that. So any thoughts on that? And do you think who would be your in your All-American your first team All-Americans?
I'm not mad at that list. If I had to make mine, I'd Mike Miles Jr.
Yeah,
TCU.
he's in mine. Yeah.
Marcus Sasser from off the wing. I think, man, you could look at Noy. You could look at Kevin McCullough, who we mentioned at Kansas. They got a few different. I'm going Arthur Kaluma. That's what I'm going with. Arthur Kaluma at a small forward, can shoot the lights out the ball. Can one of the best isolation scorers in college basketball. Like, it's hard to score in isolation situations, especially because it's no defensive three in the key, so big day long. And so I'll probably go, like I said, Mike Miles Jr. out of TCU, Arthur Kaluma, Creighton, and then at the 4 and the 5, I'll go and Oscar Tshiebwe at Kentucky.
Yeah, I would go. Okay, I'm gonna go Oscar. Definitely got to put him. What 16 rebounds a game? You can't. Yeah, you got to put him in there.
Yep.
I think you would have to put Drew Timmy in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you have to have Drew just because it feels like he's like a 9-year senior. So but an underrated dude I like, and I liked him in the draft too. But Adama Sanogo from UConn, man. I think he's gonna have I think he's gonna be 16 and 12. I think he might put up Oscar numbers, and just block everything too, like with more defense and all that. So, but I have to put Drew in there, Sasser's in there. I guess you got to put Jamie in there. But I got to put Mike Miles at that other guard spot too. I don't know. I'm just huge Mike Miles, man. Like he's a bug. I think that's why I like TCU so much, just simply because of him. I don't care about the size and all that. He just got so much heart and all that, and he's gonna do some good. So that would be that would be my All America list. But no real issues with that. Those five, at the All Americans. Just we gotta. I'm gonna ask you some questions, and before we sign up. But if you got anything else you want to add to this, it's been a dope show so far, and can't wait to continue to go. And like I said, this show is also brought to you by SeatGeek, guys. SeatGeek is the newest sponsor of the Off the Ball Network. Make sure to go to SeatGeek.com, hit in the promo code Off the Ball Network, and you get $20 off your first purchase. So you want a concert, you want to go head to a college basketball game, and go to the number one website for ticket sales and all that, and hit in the promo code Off the Ball Network. You get $20 off, man. And people have been using it, and so it helps out the network, helps out the show. So appreciate you guys. If you remember, promo code Off the Ball Network for SeatGeek.com, number one place for your tickets. So I got a few questions for you. I'm gonna ask you, and then if you want to ask me something, you go. And then we'll end the show that. But first one, can Kentucky bounce back?
Whew, man, good question for John Calipari, because of course they had the COVID year, had to miss the tournament. RP Terrence Clark as always.
Yeah, man.
And then this past year, they
still crazy
in
that
the first round.
Yeah. Still crazy.
They got bounced in the first round of St. Peter's, and they had a great year. Now, I don't want to take away from the fact still had a good season, but when you're at Kentucky, just like Duke, the expectations are high. You got a game, and you have to have success in the tournament. And my thing too, like, I never have unrealistic thing is y'all with the talent that y'all get, y'all should at least be making an Elite Eight every 3 years.
Every single season. Every single season.
And see that's even fair too. But I say every 3, just be tapping whatever. But with that though, they have a lot of talent. Of course, you get Antonio Reeves from Illinois State. You bring back CJ Frederick, who was hurt last year. You bring in a Kason Wallace. I like Chris Livingston. They got the outside shooting. I'm a little bit skeptical. I think Jacob Toppin is going to be big for them this year. I think he's the key to everything for them.
100%.
A little bit hesitant on Severe Wheeler just because he doesn't really space the floor like that. But Oscar needs all the room around him to work to be able to really be at his best offense. He kind of clogs up the paint a little bit.
That's the thing. That's the thing. I think that's gonna hurt them. I love Oscar and I love what he brings, but that could hurt them, especially when they get to the tournament. And that's what kind of hurt them against St. Peter's. They spread them, spread them, and
exactly
shot that thing.
And their best, you're gonna have to play Kason Wallace at the one, like. And this is nothing against Severe Wheeler, man, because I believe he led the SEC in assists for the past 2 years, but it's just the fit is kind of clunky. I like Kason, like I do think they'll be able to bounce back. Expectations are super high because if they don't, I don't think you're ever going to hear people calling for Cal's job because that's just delusional. But he can't get the job done anymore, and he needs to because, again, as we mentioned, you can't miss the 10. Even with COVID, I know it's something that we've never been through or experienced before, but for that to get bounced in round 1 to a team that was just not even a Cinderella, but they were more disciplined. They trusted in each other. They believed in what their coach was giving them in Shaheen Holloway, and they just played. I think Kentucky will be fine, but it really just comes down to the tournament. Like they should see. I think Arkansas, Texas A&M, and Tennessee are right there on their heels. Even Florida got a good roster, but Kentucky should be fine. I think they will bounce back. I think they should respond, and anything short of an elite.
Yeah, I mean they have the talent and they got enough guys coming back that Damian Collins to see how he bounces back. He was a big time recruit last year and all that, and it just feels like Cal's like, especially with his guards, it's just weird with his guards. He's just very weird with his guards. It just feels like that's been a trend for a minute. Last year with Ty and all that, playing him off ball and all that when he's probably your lead guard. And when he was playing lead guard, like he had that one game against Georgia last year, and I always refer back to that game. He had like 17 assists, something crazy. I know it's Georgia, but still, like when you gave him the keys, he showed he could do it. And we've seen Kentucky guards go to the next level, and you're like, wait a minute, we didn't see that at all at Kentucky. So he's weird with guards. So hopefully he figures that out, because I think that's kind of hurt them, because we talk about Kentucky, talent they have, and we should be talking about chips, multiple. They have the one into 2012 with AD, and that's 10 years ago. So exactly. We'll see how he works with those guards. All right, next one. Who's the best senior this year?
Ooh, the best senior. That's a great question. I'm gonna think that's kind of easy. That's the kind of the easy answer. But I mean, like Timmy, like I know you can talk about Gonzaga's lack of not being in the power conference and whatever. Mm-hmm. They always play a tough non-conference schedule. Last year they played a few Texas. They played a couple other teams. So I think they played Illinois, whatever it was. Yeah. He's always, every time he matches up. Well, they played Duke last year and he played good, even though Paulo was, he looked good. And so Timmy, man, his footwork is impeccable. The fundamental, and even if you don't like him as an NBA player, like he is an all-time great college player. I think that.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I don't like how people just kind of like, oh, well, he doesn't translate well to them. So that's weak,
Yeah.
And to me, like he's an all-time emphasis on that. And like I just don't. You could go other places, but to me, like he's in a perfect situation. He gets the ball pretty much whenever he wants to. Mm-hmm. He can score on any given defense. I've seen damn near every type of defense possible found a way to make it work and get buckets and influence the game in a winning way. So
I can't. I think that's kind of chalk. I think to Timmy, just by default, he's the best player, and he reminds he's gonna have like Garza reminds me of Garza.
Yeah.
People. He's going to be the best college player this year, player of the year and all that. Whether he's going to be a good pro and all that, it doesn't really matter. I think there still will be a role for him at the next level. Some people question his footwork and all that, but Garza got, Garza's, he's still, floating around, for a roster spot. So he and Garza has some, someone that people are like, he's not an NBA player, but he's still fighting. He was on the roster, so I think that could be the same for Drew Timmy and all that. But all-time college basketball player for sure, and especially if he wins it, if they could finally get over that hump,
man.
I think, and that kind of ties into this next question, Kev. The team under the most pressure. I just want to say Gonzaga. Let's talk about Gonzaga quick.
Okay.
Last year, I thought was the year. They had everything. They had everything. Nembhard, Suggs, Timmy, Chet, Strother. Like they had everything. Who was the other dude I'm thinking about? I forgot his name. But they had everything.
You said Nembhard, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I forgot the other dude, but they had everything. I thought they
Mhm.
had everything going, and they didn't get the job done. So to me, that's team on
Mhm.
my that most pressure because it's like you've done everything. Y'all the
Yeah.
power school that's not in a power conference. Like I
Mhm.
showed like that's hard to do, and you got to give them credit for doing that, for establishing a culture that's hard to do if you're not in the big time. If you're not in the SEC, the ACC, the Big East, Big 12, Big 10, Pac 12. That's
Mhm.
hard to be a power outside of the big conference. That's impressive, but eventually it's like Coach Field. You've had the talent. You recruiting at you like I say, you recruiting at a Duke level, at a Kansas level,
Yep.
at the Carolina level. That to me, they're a team under the most pressure. Whether it's fair or not, because they don't have the talent they had from last year, but they still are one of the teams that were expected to be a number one seed.
And that's right. I like the team. You bring in Efton Reed from LSU. I think he's gonna be a monster for them. You bring Silas, Nolan Hickman, Julian Strother. You bring in
Mm-hmm.
Malachi Smith from UT Chattanooga. It's really no
Nolan
excuses.
Hickman,
Like,
that's what I was thinking about. Nolan Hickman, yeah, that's what I was
yeah,
thinking.
Nolan Hickman. Yeah, so it's really so. I don't think it's like win it all or bust, but they should get to a Final Four. To me, I thought the year 21, even though I didn't think anybody could beat Baylor that year, I thought Baylor was clearly just the best team. Even though they got smacked off the court. But my thing with Gonzaga is, and then I'll answer your question, the NCAA tournament losses that Gonzaga's had. They lost this past year to Arkansas. Arkansas has not have nearly the same amount of talent as Gonzaga did.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, again, they lost to Baylor. And then, of course, 2020 you had COVID. But the year before that, 2019, the common denominator between all three of those games was all three of those teams were they punched them in the mouth and they did not know how to respond. And
Mm-hmm.
Gonzaga fans, y'all can hate being honest with you guys. And
No, you're
I'm
right.
not one of those people. I'm not one of the people that thinks like, oh, Gonzaga overrated every year because they play in a whatever conference. It's like, no, the WCC, yeah, it's not as good as the Power, but surely getting better. And to me, like, that's kind of a problem. Is tough non-conference schedule, and then for 3 months, 2 months, you're playing against a whole bunch of teams that don't really BYU and St. Mary's. Nobody really tests them like that. Nobody ever pushes them to the
Yeah,
limit. Like SEC, it's like
100%.
when you're in the SEC, it's like you got to go to Arkansas, and then the next night you got to go to. That's not easy, and they're just missing that physicality. And again, Gonzaga fans, y'all could be like the proof is in the pudding. And so, to me, answering your question, the team, this is gonna shock a lot of people because I honestly haven't heard anybody say this, and it's crazy to me. It's Danny Hurt. To me, like when you look at UConn basketball,
Mm-hmm.
greatest, most storied and historical programs in the game. Danny Hurley, I born if I'm not mistaken. He hasn't had any type of NCAA tournament success.
No.
Great players: Kemba Walker, Ray Allen, Karan Butler, Rudy Gay. All these dudes, they had great players come through this program. They're one of, to me, again, they're one of the cool. Did a hell of a job. Kevin Ali, same thing before he got into his issues. Whatever.
Yeah.
Great program. And Danny Hurley, last year they lost to New Mexico State. Respect to Timmy Allen, who had a great game. I think he had like 30 plus points in that game. It's no reason a brand like New Mexico State. No reason
Yep.
at all. And to me, like, they do have a squad. They bring in Tristan Newton from Eastern Carolina. They bring in Naheem Aline from Virginia Tech as a knockdown shooter. He said Sonogo should be a beast for them. They have the talent. Andre Jackson is really good, 6'8", super athletic, one of the most athletic dudes I've ever seen. He's going to be hurt for a little bit, but once he comes back, he's going to be the key. This is UConn, bro. Like, why are we not holding UConn to the same standards that we used to hold them to? It's one of them
100%.
schools. It's one of them schools where, like, I love college basketball. We need UConn to be good. We want UConn to be good, and that just hasn't been the case. And I'm really surprised because it's UConn, man. I can't
Yeah.
stress it enough. And so they're under the
It's
most
what
pressure to me.
year 5 for Hurley. two NCAA tournament appearances, and I think bounced route in the first round both years. The guy he took over from, Kevin Ollie, won a national championship.
Yep.
Now you could say whatever happened after, whether that's fair that he should have been fired,
Yep.
but Kevin Ollie won a national championship, and
Exactly.
I'm just gonna look over, his record, Kevin Ollie's record, if I could pull it up quick. Um, but I know they had some really tough years. Those last 2 years at UConn, these few years there, but like still national championship. I guess first few years at UConn. I mean, 20 wins, 32 wins, 20 wins, 25 wins, and like I said, a couple advanced two times and won a national championship one year. Like, I know, they wanted him out real quick. Bobby Hurley, I know he has the pedigree and all that. He coached at Wagner. I used to live in Staten Island, New York. He was at Wagner. And he did good things. And obviously, he has that, the family history. He's a legend in out here in the tri-state area and all that. And there's, obviously his brother, did great things. His dad's a legendary high school basketball coach. But you're right. The pressure's on, man. It's UConn. UConn. We're they're one of the most storied basketball programs, women's and men's.
Exactly.
We're talking about great players on both sides. Women and that's a historic program. Should be doing better. And that's always been weird that they've struggled, man. It feels like a team like that shouldn't struggle. A program like that shouldn't be struggling. But this is a big year for Hurley. He's gonna have to figure it out. And he got talent too. It's not like they don't have talent.
Exactly.
They got talent there. You mentioned all the guys. It's put up a shut up. Let's put up a shut up, or else they may be trying to find a new coach out there. So they're what? They're probably it's them, Creighton, Nova. I'm trying to think of it.
Seton Hall.
Seton Hall's gonna, obviously Seton Hall. We know, they made a lot of major changes and all that. So we'll see what happens. But they got to get it done. They got to get no more excuses for Danny Hurley. That's it. You got any questions? You for me all that. But overall, man, this has been a great first debut show. For the Get a Bugger podcast, and I'm excited to do a lot more. We're gonna make sure we do this weekly. We're gonna dive into everything college basketball, bring in some more high school stuff and all that. But Kev, this is a great first show, bro.
Yes, sir. It's been fun, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. So like I said, we dove into college basketball seasons, upon us. Basketball season period is here, the NBA and all that, but we're gonna dive into a lot more, hoops as we get into the season and all that, talk about, the high school basketball scene. We'll do some left coast, right coast, stuff, which would be really fun. But Kev, man, this is a lot of fun. So before we sign out, bro, where can the people find you on social media?
Man, my Instagram is at Kevo_bands. That's KEVANDZZ. You can follow me. I'll follow you back. I'm not bougie. Twitter at EasyMoneyKev7. That's spelled exactly how it sounds. Yeah, we're gonna keep rocking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you can follow me at Off the Ball Pod. That's where I'm most active. Go follow the Off the Ball Network, OTB_network, offtheballnetwork.com. Probably post some college rankings, some details about some freshmen I like and all that. But make sure to check that out. But on that note, it's the debut episode of Get a Bucket podcast. Make sure to I'm gonna have the own feed. We'll have our own feed and all that. So I'll drop the link for Apple, for my Spotify. It's gonna be put on YouTube. So I'll make sure to follow me and Kev, and we'll have all the links all there. But excited about the debut episode of Get a Bucket podcast. We're gonna be doing a lot, like I said, a lot more shows coming in. Make sure to follow us, like I said, it'll be in the description and all that. Make sure to follow Kev. Make sure to follow me, and we're gonna get into it, man. Great episode, Kev, bro. Be well, be safe, everyone. Take care. Make sure to leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Follow, and like I said, more dope college basketball, high school basketball content coming in. So on that note, be well, be safe. Take care, guys.